Good morning, Britannia, and hello to the rest of the world. Welcome to Tousi TV and the Morning Brief, where we're going to have a look at the latest headlines and the top stories that you might have missed over the last few hours. This morning, we are talking about the socialist smoking ban coming from the socialist government of Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner. We're going to have a look at the details in that, and we're also going to be focusing on the US elections as Mark Zuckerberg has been warned by Trump not to be naughty again. Now, this is following what Zuckerberg said about the current US government. And of course, we're going to go to the Middle East as one of the top commanders of the Islamists, specifically the Islamic Jihad, has now been eliminated and been sent to the afterlife to meet his 72 virgin goats. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's start by talking about the first story that we have for you guys, the socialist smoking ban. In the UK, we obviously came up with the idea in 2007, I believe, to ban smoking indoors. It became the consensus. Some people complained at first, but they said, well, logically makes sense. If you are inside a building and you're stuck in a small restaurant or a car or whatever, then secondhand smoking is bad. So people created the consensus and said, just go outside. Fine. Now, you can't even smoke outside. So essentially the idea, the policy from this government is nanny state, obviously. Pub gardens, even if you're in the corner and there's no one around you, you're not allowed to smoke. Outside nightclubs on the street, you're not allowed to smoke. You won't be allowed to smoke. Outside stadiums. Now, inside stadiums, it makes sense, but outside stadiums, parks, okay? Pavements outside public buildings. And shisha bars. Considering shisha bars, literally, you go in there because there's a lot of cloud and smoke because they are smoking shisha. But okay, there are a lot of people who don't smoke are celebrating this, say, yes, go on, big government. They don't realize that you're encouraging bad behavior. A slippery slope is always the solution for these people because they come up with one tiny policy. You give more power to the government and politicians, then they love the slippery slope, then they create more policies and the government will be running your life every single day. The government said we are considering a range of measures to finally make Britain smoke free. Of course, we got Anita Boating, who was their former Conservative special advisor, coming out to say it feels a very draconian step for people who are adults, who can make decisions and who can legally smoke. Their point is that you are in an outside area of a pub garden, in a walled-off area. You don't have to stand there if you don't want to experience second-hand smoking. And let's not forget the contribution that smokers make to the NHS. Now, the socialists come out and say, well, the NHS is overwhelmed because of the smokers, because they get ill. In fact, most smokers are contributing to the system than they are taking out of the system. They are paying a lot of tax, using, of course, the VAT and everything else there on the duty on cigarettes every day, and that money goes to fund the NHS. And a lot of them actually die off early. So they're not going to be a burden on the pension system. So, but of course, the socialists don't understand this. Anyway, let's go to the next headline, which is Mark Zuckerberg and Donald Trump. Of course, Zuckerberg came out recently to make some comments. Trump has obviously accepted that Zuckerberg has made the admission and has exposed Joe Biden and the FBI. Trump said, we are watching him closely, Zuckerberg. And if he does anything illegal this time, he will spend the rest of his life in prison, as well as others who cheat in the 2024 presidential election. As we said a couple of days ago, Mark Zuckerberg came out and exposed the current administration and Joe Biden's team for forcing him to do censorship, especially during the after the last presidential election, when we had the Hunter Biden story coming out, when we had all the other during the lockdown measures and everything else that happened. Mark Zuckerberg also, a few weeks ago, made some interesting comments about the assassination attempt on Trump, saying that what we saw from Trump was actually one of the most badass moments that he's seen, Mark Zuckerberg has seen in his life, and he admires that spirit of patriotism. And of course, Mark Zuckerberg has also announced that he has withdrawn his support from the US Democrats and he will not be getting involved with their campaign or even the Republicans at this point. Now, moving to the Middle East, ladies and gentlemen, we have some interesting news. The top Islamist is out. Yes, the Islamic Jihad's Abu Shuja has now been eliminated by the Israeli Defense Forces in the Judea and the Samaria. Of course, Judea and Samaria is now the West Bank, as they say in the United Nations. Let's just go with the West Bank for now. There was a counterterrorism operation, of course, in the West Bank, and the IDF said that during a joint IDF, ISA, and Israeli Defense Police counterterrorism activities in Tulkarm, following exchanges of fire, the forces eliminated 5 terrorists who had hidden inside the mosque. Of course, where else would they hide? One of the terrorists who was eliminated was Mohammed Jabbar, or Abu Shuja'a, the head of the terrorist network in North Shams. Of course, this is big news in the Middle East, because this man has been able to survive so many attacks because he's been very good at playing Tom and Jerry with the IDF. Of course, eventually he has lost that game. Ladies and gentlemen, this was your latest headlines and top stories from this morning's brief on Tousi TV. As usual, we're going to come to you guys throughout the day with breaking news, live stories from all around the world. I'm Maya Tousi, and we are the media.